Hi, I'm Shannel Rivera from Beauty and Hustle, and you're listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Salas.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Salas, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Guess who I have on today, ladies and gentlemen? I have Shannel Rivera from Beauty and Hustle. And if you don't know this brand, I suggest you get out there and you learn about it. What she's doing is tremendous. She has created a lifestyle brand showing women how to do their makeup, how to dress properly, how to live their life intentionally at a completely different level. And I just wanted to welcome you today, Shannel. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to chat about all of this good stuff. I'm so excited about it.
Goody. I have had the blessing in life to be able to hang out with her and her husband, Michael. And I've been to the studio, and I got to tell you, I love how you've set everything up. Pink is your color, baby.
Yeah, man. Pink is the color. There's actually a good story behind it. I'll share it with you later.
Sure. Now, what we're going to talk about today, for those of you who are tuning in, we're talking about manifestation. And manifestation is like the hot thing. Now, years ago, this was really brought up by Napoleon Hill. It was called the law of magnetism. And then a few years ago, a movie and a book came out called The Secret. Rhonda Byrne had gotten together with some of the top people who understood this law, and they called it the law of attraction. And let's talk about that because, Shannel, you and your husband are both entrepreneurs. You work from home. How did you know, or how did you start working with this?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon it. I don't think anything's an accident, but I will say I stumbled upon it in such a way that I actually created a beauty group on Facebook, and my intention with that beauty group was to have a safe space for, older women to do their makeup, and it turned into people having a safe space to talk about their husband and talk about just life in general. And so I would go live and I would do my makeup, and I started becoming a beauty influencer. And I pretty much took all of those women that are in that group on my journey of my career and all of the things that were happening at that time. And one of the group members messaged me one night, and this was like 4 years ago, and she said, "Hey, there's this movie on Netflix called The Secret. You should watch it." And I'm like, okay. I'm not really a big movie watcher. I've got really bad ADD. But she said, you have to watch it. And something said, you know what? I really should probably listen to what she's talking about. And so I watched it, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember looking at my husband going, does everybody not think like this? I don't understand. Why is this such a thing? Like, does everyone not think about, posting pictures on their walls of the things that they want?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah. So that's how I started getting into it, was actually understanding there was a term for what I have done for years. And I was doing it without even understanding that there was a whole lifestyle and terms behind what I was doing.
Well, this is what I find interesting because you and I are kind of the same cloth, because I, as a kid, started one of my first businesses at 16. I don't want anybody to be impressed with that, but it was, my dad was such a pain in the, tuchus when it came to borrowing $20. You hear what I said? But we hadn't have an allowance. If I asked my dad for a $20 bill, he made it so freaking hard to get a $20 bill out of him in the 70s. It was easier to start a business. And so, yeah, you laugh. We laugh now. Years later. But, being an immigrant, family's kid, and all this, my dad was the first generation born here in America. It was all about working hard. they didn't really have a vision. They just worked and bought a house and, did these things. But to really take your business to another level, and part of the point of why I'm bringing this up is we were not born with silver spoons in our mouth. Okay. No. And if you're not familiar with that term, basically what that means is you either grew up poor or maybe slightly lower middle class. My dad always liked to pretend we were rich because he was a chiropractor. He had the DR in front of his name. But my dad, he was the cheapest man on planet Earth simply because he couldn't afford a lot of the things he pretended that he had. As a matter of fact, my furniture in my bedroom was his wood shop project that he had done in high school during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And he set it up. He goes, look at that. Isn't that awesome? And it was like, why in the hell can't you just go to Kmart? Because Kmart was a new thing back then. It's like,
yeah,
cheap. I mean, was your family cheap growing up?
No, my mom was never cheap, but we were very poor. So yeah. I actually grew up, for the majority of my life, I grew up in my grandma. I shared a bunk bed with my sister in my grandma's living room. And it was my mom, her sister, and her brother, and they were all adults, and my grandma. And we all lived there. And I never knew it was weird for like your whole family to be in one house, or, for your mom to never be at home because she had 3 jobs. I didn't know. I was a kid, so she definitely wasn't cheap, but we definitely didn't have money. So
well, I love what Dave Chappelle, the comedian, says. He goes, I was one of these. He goes, I wasn't raised in the hood. I mean, I like to pretend. I hang out with rappers who were in the hood. He goes, but I grew up as the only black family in an all-white neighborhood. And he goes, that sleepover that happens if you're black and you go to a white people's house. And he goes, I came back after that. And I looked at my parents, I go, you all need to step up your game because everything at Billy's house works.
That's hilarious.
And so, yeah. You don't know what poor is until, you actually go to someone else's house and you're like, oh, they got stuff that we don't have.
Yeah.
But what this harkens to, and I want to have you take us down this mindset, because when you grow up poor, and you don't know you're poor. I mean, I don't know about you, but back in the day, we didn't quite know we were. I wasn't poor, but I was definitely. My grandfather, we were poor. He built his own house by getting an Amishman to help him do the plans and work on everything. He built the house by himself because he couldn't afford a mortgage. So, I want you to tell me your journey, because a lot of us are carrying what's called a poverty consciousness in our minds simply because of the way we were raised. Take us on that journey of how you broke out of that poverty consciousness.
Yeah, and when I look at it now, I broke out of that consciousness at a very young age, and it was labeled as defiant, as rebellious, as, oh, she won't listen to anybody, she's really, really bad. I was always labeled the really, really bad kid. And in reality, I was always trying to prove everybody wrong, right? So it was, oh, well, your mom is, a single mom and she works 3 jobs. Like, you're never going to be successful, Shannel. You're never getting out of the hood, And I mean, for a long time, I would teeter back and forth. So as I started growing up a little bit, like in my teenage years, I spent a lot of time in South Central LA dating grown-ass men that were gang members of notorious gangs and hanging out with the Mexican mafia and really thinking, well, maybe this is my elevated version, because there's money in those situations. There's more money there than there was at home, right?
Right.
And so I would kind of teeter-totter back and forth of, how are you guys going to, you can't define me. I'm 9, like I remember being in 4th grade and them telling my mom, like, she's going to be a loser. She's not going to amount to anything. And yeah. I knew at that time, like, my entire existence now needs to be to prove all of these people wrong.
I don't blame you. I was the same way. I had guidance counselors that tell me I'm going to be a loser because I wanted to be an artist and I want to draw and I wanted to be a designer. And they literally said to my face, you're going to be a loser. You're not going to amount to anything. Yeah. after my first book came out, Liquid Leadership, I signed a copy of that and sent it to my guidance counselor, who said I'd be a
I love
loser.
it.
Yeah, that was the best and sweetest. So you're growing up at 9 and you realize something's wrong with the
Yeah.
dialogue and the mindset. You believe you can be anything you want. And
Yeah.
our parents, I don't know if your parents did this, but my dad goes, "You can do anything you want if you put your mind to it." And then a week later, I'd want to build a stage in my bedroom, and he'd be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" You know, our parents would send these mixed messages, and
Yeah.
I was defiant, because if somebody tried to define me and say you're this, you're that, I would literally just, almost in my own mind, give them the middle finger and say, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah. I think for me, my mom always knew that I was going to do big things, but she struggled with what was going on in her head of like, how can she do something if I don't pull myself out of the trenches? So she would kind of
Right.
back and forth of the reality of where she was, being a single mom and being broke and working 3 jobs and seeing really, she had really aspirational kids, but not understanding how that would all pan out for her, I think, in the end was a challenge for a long time. And I've just kind of pulled her over to the manifestation side, in the last couple of years. And it's done amazing things for her. Like that, she's not a client of mine per se, but she's my greatest gift of seeing manifestation happen for some.
Wow. Now, this always surprises people, but I think our generations here, and you're a little younger than me, but our generations started to say, I want a better life. The generations before, especially if you were immigrant kids, or you came to the United States, maybe first or second generation, they really weren't thinking of, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. It's get a job, put your nose down, work hard, save for retirement. So all of a sudden, these kids show up in their life, and we're talking big dreams. And I used to be mad at my parents a little bit, because when I was growing up, if you had looked at me and hung out with me, you'd be like, that kid needs to go to Hollywood. I don't care what you say, push him to go. In my father's mind, I was an idiot. That was it. And there was no, like, he couldn't see a dream for me beyond his own limited thinking.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about that, that breaking out of, they truly can't see. I mean, it's not even on their radar, the life you want to create.
Yeah, and I think that was the hard thing. I feel like my mom did see that, but she was in such a deep, dark trench of her own. She never knew how to make it happen. And even now, as an adult, I and you and I have had that conversation kind of briefly, but it's like, I will be a celebrity, period. That's it. It just wasn't my time back then. So she was downloading whatever information she needed to download to make sure that I stay on the right trajectory of my life, And so I think, but she will always tell you, like, she knows that I'm destined for like big, big things. She just didn't know how to make that happen when, back in the day it was like Barbizon, and I'm sure I'm aging myself, but and she didn't know how to get me in front of the right people because she was always working and she didn't have money for headshots and stuff like that. So, and I think that when I was like in maybe my very beginning 20s, I was a little bit, I don't want to say angry. I always felt like I missed my calling,
Right.
As I've grown up, I've realized I needed to go through all of those things to get me to the point right now where I'm almost ready. Like, it's right there on the horizon. I can't see it yet, but I have the scent of it.
That's something I discussed with somebody last night. I had a not depression, but I was really down in the dumps for a number of years. And part of the reason was I've always been able to feel my future. It's a perception, it's a feeling. And part of the discussion I love having with you today, and I think both of us, is we've come from, although diverse backgrounds, it's incredible that we've had the same path. We came from these kind of backgrounds where people told us we weren't going to amount to nothing. We grew up poor. We understand what that's about. And the vision that is projected onto us. And anybody who's listening, the reason I want you to really grasp what Shannel's talking about is this. doesn't matter how low you are in life. If you can visualize a better life and hang on to that vision, you can make it happen. It's how clear you can make that vision for yourself and how extremely empowering, emotionally, empowering you have to feel when you want to create this vision. So let's talk more about this on your journey. You left the way your lifestyle, you moved out, and how did you go? Because this is a huge leap to go from living in the ghetto, Barrio, the
Yeah.
Barrio, and
Lavario, yep.
yeah, and hanging out with some of the top Latino
Yeah,
gang members, and coming now into your own and becoming a force to be reckoned with.
it was actually before it was before I moved out that I actually started to understand something massive for me. And it's going to sound so crazy, but I started cheerleading in high school, like at the end of middle school and in high school. And I was in this super, super competitive. I mean, the whole school was all for the cheerleaders. Like, you didn't go to the football game for the football players, you went for the cheerleaders. And it was through cheerleading and a very rigid schedule where I had, my cheer coach would tell me what to wear, what socks, how I could do my hair. Could I wear it half up, half down? What jacket I could wear if I was cold. And we got to school at 6 a.m. and we stayed till 8 or 9 o'clock, and we were competitive. And it was in that moment I became, of course, the cheerleading captain, because hello. I realized that I wasn't bossy, I wasn't defiant, I wasn't rebellious, I was a leader. But nobody had ever taught me, hey, this is what a good leader does, this is what a bad leader does, this is how you can influence people in a really healthy and positive way. Instead, I was always told that those traits were really negative, right? So I became consumed with cheerleading, and I always say it saved my life. Like, all my friends were out getting high, drinking, getting pregnant, and I was, like those movies, like those typical cheerleading movies. That was my life. It saved me. And to this day, I still talk to my cheerleading coach. Like, she saved me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed. But I feel like I'm watching a movie when you're telling me this, like, Becky, you're either in this squad or you're not, that kind of, it's like, yeah. And then they have the final cheerleading, battle, and they have to duke it out.
It totally,
Let's get the attitude. Yeah.
Yes, that was my life. Like, I went from Mi Vida Loca, which is a movie, to Bring It On. And I've lived both of those lives. And so, yeah, it was great. But that's really when I started to have these aha moments of, oh, wow, like I can be really powerful with this gift that I have of influencing others, and wow. I started with that, and then I got my first job. And so I was always either working, I was working at the Cheesecake Factory, and I was like, oh, this is kind of feels good to have my own money, buy my own car, be able to be a little bit independent. And that's kind of where that shift started to take place. And I was starting to think, you know what? Like, there's something bigger out there for me. I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah.
But I felt it more in those times. Like, also through like high school, I started to not care what anyone else thought.
Right.
I knew inherently what I was supposed to be doing with my life, even though I couldn't always articulate it, if that makes any sense. I feel like that will make sense.
It makes total sense, because I grew up in a very small town where people did not get out. And I remember I used to tell my friends, I'm going to live in New York City, and I'm going to be famous, and I'm going to get a black belt, and I'm going to, be an author, because I could feel that I was going to do all these things. And one of my friends one night, we're all out drinking. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And he goes, fucking Zala, shut the hell up. You're not going to achieve any of that. So I got so mad at him. I said, you know what? I'm going to prove him wrong. And I think it was years later, we're in my apartment in New York City. We're having a couple of drinks, and he goes, man, you could never just be satisfied. You always had to go to the movies and tell us how they were making the movie and who was in the movie. And, you always had these big dreams. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but Frank, have you noticed I achieved every single one of those dreams? he got dead silent for like 30 seconds, like, oh. It was like, so I want to talk about this because this is one of my pet peeves, and maybe we can talk about this. When you have a vision or a dream, it is really important not to talk about it in the beginning. Am I correct?
Yeah, and so it's funny because some people fight me on this. I say it all the time: hustle in silence, let success be your noise.
Yeah.
And some people will argue with me and say, well, you need the accountability. You should be telling people what you're doing because you need accountability. And it's like, when you are somebody that believes in manifestation into my every fiber, right? I don't need accountability because I am my own accountability to whatever the universe has called me upon. So, like, I don't need to tell anybody, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, and da 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 da. It's once I start to think about things and, I start to download information of, like, okay, show me a sign of which way I'm supposed to go with this. Once I know that things are starting to lead towards that path, I generally only share it with my mom and my husband. And I think we had this short interaction the other day. I said, now when I say something, they both are like, oh, fuck, she's going to make it happen. Whatever she just said, like, it's going to happen. So I think that I don't really talk about it with many people
Yeah.
because I just, for me, I don't feel like it works that way.
Yeah, I think it works when you want to do weight loss and you want accountability coaches around you and things like that. For people, who say, I'm going to lose 25 pounds and then they do it and they hustle, that's great. But we're talking about creating a business from scratch, creating ideas, creating your retreats, things like that. And I've learned like this, and I tell people this, it's called the law of silence. And what you do is, think about it this way. Every time you do a little work on manifesting a dream, you're blowing up a balloon, this wonderful, beautiful red balloon. You're going like this. You're putting air into it. You're putting attention into it. You're making it happen. Every time you run around and you tell people about it, you're letting the air out like this. And by the time you go back to trying to blow it up again, you've told so many people there's no more air in that. So it's very important to keep the air in the balloon. That's your dream. You
Yeah.
build that and you build that. You will know when you have the first 5 or 6 rungs of that, thing that you're trying to manifest built, you will know when the right time is to talk about it. And
Absolutely.
this happened to me when I was writing my first book, Liquid Leadership. I was married at the time. My wife, Norma, she said to me, don't tell anybody about this. And you know how hard it was to not say anything. And I distinctly remember this. We're at church, and we're in a circle of people, and we're talking. And then I'd been working on the book for like 3 years, and it was about to come out in Barnes and Noble. And I just sat there and I go, oh, I've been working on my book, and it's finally going to be published, and blah, blah, blah. And the whole room went, what? You wrote a book? And I went, oh my God, I just realized I hadn't told anybody. And I
Yeah,
was a little proud of myself.
yeah. So when we bought our house in Vegas, I have a pretty big following on Facebook, and they would see us, like, I would say, oh, we're going to Vegas for the weekend, but I didn't tell anybody anything, like that we were looking for a house, oh, hey, we're here to get it appraised, or here's a sneak peek, or I didn't say anything. And the day that we got keys, I told, I made a Facebook post and I said, hey, at 4:00, we have a huge announcement. Come hop on our live video. And there was thousands of people watching us open the doors to our house for the first time. And people just crying, like literally typing, like, I'm bawling, I'm crying, I'm so happy for you guys. You guys deserve all of this. But I didn't tell anybody. And we went almost 2.5 months through, like, getting funded and all of that stuff. So, and I did the same thing with college. When I decided to go back to college, I was already at FedEx making 6 figures. I told nobody except for my best friend and my husband, not even my parents. And I just worked my ass off late at night and during the, on the weekends. And one weekend I messaged my mom and I said, hey, let's have a graduation party. And she's like, for who? And I said, oh, I finally got my degree done. And she's like, what the hell? Like, you didn't tell me this whole time. And I'm like, I didn't want to say anything to anybody. I just wanted to be in my own little zone, so.
Yeah. Well, I think we live in a world where everybody likes to say, "Look at me," and they hold up their camera phone and they're going, "I'm so awesome! Look at me!" Yeah, and they don't realize they have no business. Every time I see somebody posting stuff, a speaker, an author, or whatever, I know they don't have any business because I know a lot of them personally. So when I see someone like you who's built a business, and you've had several businesses, like you used to sell clothing out of your house, and
Mhm.
Beauty and Hustle is just an extraordinary brand. I love everything you're doing with it. But here's something I want people to know. This is a big part of the secret to manifestation, and that is emotions. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I think, so many people try to live in this ideal lifestyle, right? Or we try to not let the bad in or not celebrate the good. Either way, it usually swings from, one side to the other. But what I've learned and why I feel that Beauty and Hustle itself has really manifested into this huge brand that just blows my mind every day when I sit down to really think about it is because I put all of the emotion in with it and I shared all of that emotion. So, when I've lost my ass in a business deal, I may not go live and say, "Hey, you guys, this guy robbed me today." I put it in a way of, "Hey, I'm at rock bottom. Like, yeah, I'm a 7-figure business owner, but right now my business is not doing well." Or, "Oh my God, you guys, today I just made $100,000, in one day, 24 hours, we did 6 figures." So I think sharing that emotional roller coaster not only helps, other people come in, but for me, it really, I feel that I'm confirming to the universe that I got this. Like, you can throw me to, a pit of wolves and I'm going to come back the pack leader, or you can to the best gold mine and I'm going to get my piece, but I'm not going to be greedy and I'm going to come back and help, and so
Yeah.
I feel like that those are the emotions that are tied into it.
I love that about you.
Thanks.
Well, there's this thing called spiritual bypassing. And it's really when people sit around and go, "I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm one with God and the universe." And I think that is denying ourselves why we're here. We're on a mission. Each and every one of us is on a mission, and that mission, whether it's business or it's spirituality or wherever your mission is, you're going to learn through that vehicle, whatever it is. So for me, it's always been business. I've learned more through business about spirituality than I think I would have learned any other way. And so I love the way that you really share with your audience the ups and downs of your business, because nobody wants to hear just how amazing you really are. They really don't. And there are a lot of people in the speaking industry that I know, some pretty famous people. Their businesses dried up so dramatically in 2008 and they couldn't figure out why. Well, part of the reason why is their message was, "I'm awesome, and let me tell you how awesome I am, and here are the steps to becoming awesome too." And you're like,
Yeah.
nobody wants to hear that anymore. They want to hear how you lost your legs and you were able to get up and go live a life that's, profound and meaningful. They want to hear how you went up to, you were about to commit suicide. That's Brandon Bouchard's story. And the universe struck him by lightning and said, "No, you're meant for greatness. Everybody's meant for greatness." And so when you share this stuff, Shannel, the best part, I think, is your audience just adores you. Of course, you get a few haters here and there who just don't get it. But what I love about you is, you have given women who don't fit into that box of the traditional beauty you see on Maxim magazine. You give girls that are regular, everyday girls who might be a little round, might be a little not perfect, and you show them this wonderful freaking light with your makeup tips and beauty tips and all this stuff. And I know that you are living this leadership role because you just sit up and you own it. You own the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I think it's just that, like, there is no perfect anything.
Right.
but society says there is, right? But it's funny because I mean I run around with a bunch of different types of groups, and in the beauty community there's all of these, you know, men and women now that are like, people are put them on this pedestal, and they're some of the most insecure people ever. And then you know, they're like, oh yeah, and then it's like face tuned, and then I cut my cellulite out, and I've tried to get plastic surgery 800 times. So I think that at the end of the day, I want people to realize, like, you know, there isn't a perfect anybody. Like,
All right.
have a body that's healthy and that allows you to get up and make impact. You know, and the majority of us have 2 feet we can put on the floor and get up and do that. And if we don't, then we find other ways, right? But like, really to get up and make that impact and to reset those standards. And
Wow.
I love how you said, you know, when in 2008, when the market crashed, like when we went into recession, there was all these people hurting because I would say, I think it was actually New Year's 2019. I made a post, so about a year ago, and I said, you're going to start to see people drop like flies because people are sick and tired of that shit. Like, they're tired of the Instagram lifestyle. Like, and there's so many coaches, gurus, all of these people. And you and I both know they're broke. They're on there going, oh my God, look at my Lamborghini. And I'm like, I just saw him, and like, he doesn't really drive a Lamborghini, you know? So I think that I feel like right now the world is being awakened.
Yes.
And I feel that there's a handful of us that were awakened ahead of time. And I feel like I am a part of that. That I hit my rock bottom 2-3 years ago. Again, I've hit lots of rock bottoms, but I hit that again in order to be ready for this rock bottom that was coming in a surplus. And so I think that there's going to be a cleanse of a lot of fake people, and people that are really authentic are going to start to shine. And I'm excited for it. You know, I look forward to it.
So am I. I'm actually excited for it. My business partner, Elizabeth, said a lot of these people who do live events like we do, they have invested so much money right now that they're going to be out of business in probably the next 6 months. They're never going to recover. And I want you to talk a little bit about this, because you said you've hit rock bottom several times, and so have I. I just want to know, what do you do to get through that? Because mindset is incredibly important in this day and age. And a lot of people who are listening to this, they're probably sitting there going, well, how do you get through it all when you know, now you got to go to McDonald's to eat, and you hope they have enough on the dollar menu, and you have a $5 bill. You know, what do you do?
Yeah, I want to say one thing is I've learned to really embrace rock bottom. Me and rock bottom are friends at this point. I do not want rock bottom to come often, but I have learned to embrace it and always ask myself and ask the universe, what is this trying to teach me? Because often I feel like rock bottom is the result of the universe trying to teach me something, and bitch didn't listen. So it like, which is literally what I feel like is happening right now with coronavirus. Like, it, you know, the universe tried to say, like, stop polluting the ocean, stop polluting the air, stop like not listening, stop being on your phone, hang out with your kids, you know, and we didn't listen enough. So it was like, well, bitch, you're all on timeout. You're all hitting rock bottom. We're going to put you on timeout, and you're going to have to learn the lesson really hard. But so I've learned to embrace it and ask what it's trying to teach me. I think that's the biggest. Yeah. And always knowing that whatever is meant for me will be, period. Like, if I had my heart set on something and it doesn't pan out, which now honestly doesn't really happen because I've gotten really deep into my intuitive side. But right. If something that, like, if a job opportunity or something doesn't pan out, I am so at ease with that, knowing that that wasn't it. Like, that wasn't my moment, and it's okay, you know? And so I think that if anyone's listening right now and they're in rock bottom, really ask yourself, what is the lesson that you're learning? Maybe it's that you've been living above your means. Maybe it's that You really are lonely and want a partner every day in quarantine or what, maybe there's so many different, maybe it was that you wanted to be an artist, but you ended up being a bartender for many years. And now this is your shot to, start painting again or whatever,
Right.
if you just ask for what's the lesson and you're open to receive what that lesson is, it makes rock bottom a little bit less treacherous, I guess. At 25 years old, Mike and I were standing, we shared a car, and I was standing in my little apartment in Long Beach, California, and he came home with bread and milk and I don't know, like a bottle of something for salad or something. And I literally remember screaming to him, going, why would you go get groceries? It probably was maybe $40. Why would you go get groceries without asking me? We don't have money. And I remember having to go back to the grocery store and return that, and in that moment, that sucked. But it also taught me okay, well, whatever I'm doing at work obviously is not enough. So what am I going to do to bust my ass to get out of this situation?
Right.
Now, to this day, I'm so grateful when I get to buy groceries. That mindset, some people are like, oh gosh, I have to go grocery shopping. I have to spend $300 today. It's like, I get to spend $300 today on groceries. I get to go grocery shopping. My mindset around that is just so different.
Right.
I get to do those things. I'm so thankful that I can go grocery shopping,
Yeah. Gratitude.
So crazy. Who would have thought that that's the lesson I would have, that was 10 years ago, but I'm still so grateful for it.
Well, they always point out in all these books where you read about how somebody overcame all these tremendous odds to become a multimillionaire. And it's always, this is missing, like food, heat, living poor. But here's the funny part. When they decide to have children, because the children weren't raised with lack, they get everything. They just have no drive whatsoever to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's been told over and over and over again.
Yeah. And that's, I've spoken about this a lot of times, is I'm very grateful for how I grew up. I'm every single speed bump and every rock bottom, I'm so thankful for all of it, because I could not do what I do for a living. And I have multifaceted within Beauty and Hustle of what I do, like selling product and or, coaching other women, doing live events and hosting retreats. There are so many things that I had to go through and experience so that I could teach other people and be that vessel for other people to know, and so I'm so thankful for all of it. And people think I'm nuts every time I say that.
Well, this is a part of manifestation. We talked about getting clear about your vision, feeling and sensing that intuition that you're going here, you're going there. And now, we talked a little bit about the emotional roller coaster and how to stay grounded and focused. You embrace that you're hit rock bottom so you can get out. It's when we fight those things that, we have trouble. But now let's talk a little bit more about this part of it, this gratitude attitude. And they said the universe will, when you have gratitude towards something, the universe will give you more of it. Let's talk about that.
It's all about being intentional, right? If you wake up with the victim mentality, you are asking for more things to happen to you to become more of a victim. When you start thinking, well, why me? The life isn't fair. Oh, this is terrible. Okay, by the way, I'm in no means perfect, and doesn't mean I don't have days or a couple of hours where I don't feel angry about things, right? I've just learned how to snap out of it faster. But it's, if you can really turn it into intentional of all right, cool. So that job wasn't meant for me. Dear universe, I hear you. These are the conversations I have out loud in my house, right? I hear you, universe. So where exactly are we going with this one this time? show me the way of where we need to go, and then start kind of tapping into that, and then being really intentional with what we're trying to do.
You know, you hit on something, that being intentional, gratitude, talking to the universe. But there's something we haven't touched base on, but it's in our conversation right now. And I always talk about this. Be careful about manifesting someone else's dream that you think is your own.
Oh my God.
And I've seen people become doctors and lawyers and all kinds of very successful individuals, and they did what their parents expected them to do, and they hate it. And I think you and we fought so hard to be exactly what we are and what we want to do. I can't even fathom the other side of that coin, that people created an actual multi-million-dollar lifestyle from stuff they hated.
Yeah. Well, it never works. So that's my thing. I really enjoy things that work and effortlessly kind of work, right? So I couldn't imagine ever doing anything that I really, really hated for a long period of time, thinking that that was a good idea, right? Which is why I was in trouble all the time when I was little, because I was like, this is stupid. You know what I mean? Like, screw your book. This is a dumbass book. It's not teaching me anything that I need to know, right? So I think that I see it a lot in my space with women entering in the business world, or maybe they already have a 6-figure business and they're trying to scale and grow, is because of the amazing internet that we have. We also have this, this tendency to look at somebody and go, oh, well, she does it this way, that way, this, you know what I mean? It's like, well, is hot pink your favorite color? No, then why are you trying to brand yourself like me? You got to do what is meant for you, And so I think it's asinine for anyone. And it's part of my 3-step method that I teach. I teach something called Success Through SaaS, which is strategy, authenticity, and soul. And for me, it's really that authenticity part of, you got to find not only what you want to do, but how you want to do it that makes the most sense for you. And then things will start to line up for you, and stop comparing yourself, especially because I think this goes back on something that we talked about earlier, is that a lot of people that actually manifest don't talk a lot, right? Like, right. I'm live all the time, but I'm not always talking about manifesting and all this stuff. But a lot of people will say, well, I see you do it. It looks so easy. And it's like, you don't know the relationship that I have with the universe. Like, you don't know how much I've surrendered. Like, I have surrendered my entire being. Like, I'm here. I'm a vessel. Do what I'm supposed to do. And you guide me to where I need to go, dear universe, right? And like, I don't think people see that part, or the hard parts of, because I feel like when I ask to be used as a vessel, which I'm really happy that I am, I feel like that's why I do get rock bottom a lot, because it's like, oh, hey, you're going to have these women that might feel like they're about to be divorced. We're going to make you and Mike, which is my husband, right? We're going to make you guys fight for like a good year so that you know how to help these women. You know what I mean? Like, wow. I go through all of that so that I can help other people on the other side, and it's just crazy.
Everything's a lesson, ladies and gentlemen. It's Absolutely. A lesson because if you really truly decide to tap into how to manifest, and you're using the law of attraction and you're reading The Secret, this is spirituality. This is, this is in the Bible. Job, life kept kicking him in the back of the head because he didn't listen. And then when he started to get in alignment with God, the universe, spirit, and started listening, then he became wealthy. Everybody in the Bible becomes wealthy at the end, except for, Jesus. That doesn't end well. But if you read the Old Testament, that's exactly what happens. And so I always like when people say, oh, they always quote the Bible, the money is the root of all evil. No, that's not the whole quote. Read the whole quote. Everybody in the Bible, what happened in the Old Testament is they would screw up because they weren't listening to the word. And then all of a sudden they manifested a better life because they became a better person, better whatever. Yeah. They had gratitude, they had love, and all these things.
And I think that's just the thing, is that people have this weird relationship with money. And and what I find is that people will start to manifest for money, and I feel like that's not good enough. Like, you can't try to you can't start a business or start a relationship or try to manifest anything for money. And the impact and the long game of what that money does for you. You know, like
Right.
I want money so that I don't ever have to worry about grocery shopping, right? I just
Right.
went and spent $800 at the grocery store last week. Like, and I didn't, the Walmart lady was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? She was like, uh, are you guys doing something? I said, oh, my mom just bought a house, so I'm going to stock her fridge too. Like, you know, whatever. So it's just, you know, stuff like that. Like, you have to understand that long-term goal of, you can't just sit here and go, oh, I want money. Like, okay, what do you want that money for? There has to be a bigger purpose for those things, even if it's, you know,
Yeah.
I don't ever want to have to worry about paying my mortgage. I don't
Yeah.
ever want to have to share a fucking car with my husband. I mean, I shared a car with him for over a year, and it was so
It's horrible. I know.
bus.
I
I was on the bus. Like, it was so bad, you know, but we did it. So, yeah.
Let's. How do we get a hold of you? I want everybody to reach out and find you. How do we get a hold of you?
I'm Beauty and Hustle everywhere. So on Facebook, Instagram. I'm really enjoying TikTok these days because they're kind of mindless, cute little videos. But and then also Shannel Rivera on Facebook. I go live all the time, giving, you know, free business tips, mindset tips, all of that stuff. So they can look me up there or go to beautyandhustle.com.
It's Shannel with an S, not a C.
Yes.
Shannel Rivera.
Rivera. Yeah.
You were talking about this, and I really want to touch on this. And it would be great to close, and then we're going to do a quick lightning round. We're going to ask you some cool questions. Nobody can manifest if they just sit there and say, I want $1 million. It doesn't work that way. You have to say, you know, I want a Jeep Grand Cherokee with all the accoutrements, and you go to the dealership and you sit in that car and you smell the leather, the new car smell. You grab that steering wheel, you feel it in your hands, you get excited, and the emotions of the excitement of owning that vehicle should run up and down your spine. The excitement, the power of, oh, I can't wait to, oh, this is great. So what was the thing that drove your manifestation?
Yeah, it was really being able to have my own home. And at one point, like before I met Mike, I had to file bankruptcy. So I remember feeling, you know, like I was an adult already. I was bankrupt. Here I am with this new boyfriend. I couldn't even afford to pay for my bankruptcy. I literally had to borrow $800 from my family to pay for my bankruptcy as an adult. And it was just, I don't want to say embarrassing, but I just felt like, God, like these people, they were right. You know, I had that moment of like, they're going to be right if I can't pull myself out of this. And so for me, what really triggered it was when I was at FedEx, I started to see that if I could pull myself out, I was having a ripple effect. And it's so funny because my mom still harasses me. Like my Beauty and Hustle team still harasses me because she was my very first hire at FedEx. Like once I was the boss, which I manifested that whole thing too, which is a whole day, a different story. But she was my first like hire, right? And through her, I was like, oh shit, like I can change so many people's life if I can teach them that they're limitless at FedEx. Like they are totally limitless. They can do whatever they want. They can be as successful as they want. And she was really, she's still to this day is like my huge catalyst. Like every time where I'm like, well, I do okay. Do I really need to scale, grow, be bigger? Do I really need to be on a billboard? Like, do I need to do all those things? I'm like, shit, I do, because she's still at FedEx and like I need to go back for her and the other 8 of them. So
you want to hire. Yeah, I want people to know that you really were a catalyst at FedEx. You were, talk about the department, you were making some serious cash before you started your own, becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I actually started at FedEx as a part-time team member at 25 years old, making $9 an hour. And in that interview, I asked my boss at the time, how long does it take for me to get your job? And she just laughed and said, ah. I said, no, really, how long does it take to get your job? She said, oh, maybe like 4 years. I said, 4 years? I want to have your boss's job in 4 years. And the craziest shit is a year to the day almost, I had her job because she got fired. Like I literally had her job in a year. And 4 years from that interview, I became her boss's title. Like I manifested the shit out of my whole career. So yeah, it was just insane. And I was the #1 district manager at FedEx for a couple of years, and people thought we were nobody ever, I would walk into a room and they'd always say, I don't understand. Like they couldn't get it. And it's like, well, how are you doing now? Because you're still at your crappy job doing,
right.
Not making any money there.
If you can share, how you were making a serious salary. Can you share how much that was?
Yeah, I was making 6 figures with a bonus structure that was really nice, because typically people in my position wouldn't bonus, because, it's like one of those structures where they're like, oh, and it's like a $40,000 a year bonus, but no one ever makes it. But of course I made it, and I made more than that off the top. So I was making $250K when I left.
And you were doing it your own way. This is, Shannel and I belong to a mastermind, and she shared some of this, and you did it your own way. And sometimes your boss's boss would walk by and just like shake their head, like, how are you pulling in almost 200 grand a year,
Yeah. I mean, up until the day that I left, when I told my boss, when I quit, she said, if you ever need a female mentor. And I just looked at her like, really? Now's the time you're going to offer assistance to me? I said, no, sweetheart, when you're waiting in line to sign my book, just understand that I'm not letting you cut the line, right? Like until that very last day, nobody understood me, and they still call me and ask me for advice. Like, and I'm like, you guys, I'm going to send you a freaking invoice. Like, this is ridiculous.
You see, when I had my companies, you were the kind of employee I pulled aside and said, hey, do you want to start your own company? Because we want to create a new division, and I think you should run it. That's how I was. I was looking for the crazy ones who dyed their hair purple, and I'd say, "Get over here. Let's go out and have a bite to eat. What is your vision?" And they would always shock me. And I wish more corporate guys would get it.
Yeah.
You're the people who leave and start a competing company and drive the other company out of business. That's the best part.
Yeah. I always, like, part of my heart always wants to go back into like corporate consulting and tell them, like, go eat lunch with these people.
Yeah. Always go out with the weirdos.
I wasn't the smartest person in the whole company, but I was eating lunch with the people on my front lines and thanking them and appreciating them and telling them that they were limitless, and they believed it. They still believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They and it was crazy because we all look like it's a small world together. Like, and it was awesome. I love this.
If you don't tell people how awesome they are, they're not going to go the extra mile to try and be awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a simple way of motivating people. But
totally.
I love your story, Shannel. Thank you for being on the show. Yeah. I always have a lightning round with my guests, so I'm going to sit here and ask you some quick 3 questions.
Okay.
And you do the best you can.
All right.
What's your favorite memory with you and your husband?
My favorite memory with me and my husband has got to be, I actually had earned a trip to Costa Rica with FedEx as President's Club. And one day we stayed an extra a couple of days, but we got like a tour company, and they took us from Costa Rica to Nicaragua. And we just drove everything you could see in Nicaragua in one day. And it was my favorite day with him ever, because we had such a good time. And it was really, that was one of those moments that I had manifested of traveling the world with my best friend that I love so much. And so that's was
awesome. And your husband is a cool guy, Mike. He laughs at all my stupid jokes, but he doesn't chuckle. He like belly laughs. Like he lives life.
Laugh. Yeah.
He lives like that. That's his rap name, Notorious Laughter.
Yeah, I love it.
So, second question: what's your favorite food?
Oh, can I just say my favorite restaurant is the Cheesecake Factory, which is so funny. I worked there for 10 years, so people always like, you still eat there? And I'm like, the Cheesecake Factory has like everything for everything, Doesn't matter what mood you're in. So
Here's the funny part. I remember when I was at your house and I said, "There's a dish I love at the Cheesecake Factory," and I described it, and you had the name, it was Steak Diane or whatever. You go,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, it's Steak Diane." It's like
Yeah,
matter of fact, like you're the front waitress at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah, that's number 86.
That's my favorite food is the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, that's funny. So I have one more question, and this one is pretty cool. And that is, at the end of your life, what do you want to be known for?
At the end of my life, I want to be known for creating impact and empowering others to take massive action. So I always see the end of my life not being about me, but about, and it's weird because I envision it, there's people at my funeral and they all stand up saying that they've been impacted by me. They're not there sad about me, but they're happy that they got to be a part of that and that I've been able to impact that many people.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Shannel Rivera of Beauty and Hustle. Reach out to her. Look for Beauty and Hustle. She has some great retreats coming up where, you get a little deep. I'm not going to lie. She's going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
But you're going to come out of there going, oh, I had this amazing experience. Thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being a big part of the Awakened Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.